Hello everybody, welcome back to Photography Tips and Tricks. And today we have a question from John Milano. He asks, what are some of the ways that you can whiten teeth in an image? That's a very good question. That's a very common editing task that people do. They like to do that in images. It becomes very handy, especially if you're doing it commercially or if you're doing it to have printed and you want to show off a client or somebody. Whitening teeth is very essential. It's a very good method to get into when doing portraits. Of course, those of you that follow me know that I like to always show you more than one way. I believe that Photoshop has many ways to do one task, and I'm always finding out more and more ways to do each thing as I explore Photoshop. It's endless, really, and I find that there's always going to be the short way and there's going to be the long way. Some of them have pros and cons. Sometimes you may do something that takes longer, but it has better results. You have more control. So, of course, like every other tutorial that I do on here, I want to just show you two methods. I'm going to show you a fast method, and then I'm going to show you the longer method, the way that I learned. So we're going to do that. So first we're going to zoom in here. And we are going to go to the dodge tool. And you notice when you select the dodge tool, you have different options. You have a range, so we have it set to midtones. You also have an exposure. I put mine around 20%. There's no right or wrong way. It depends on you, depends on your taste, and depends on the image. My advice to you is just to mess around with these settings. Now, you have to understand something with whitening teeth. You have to be careful not to overdo it. It's very easy to make this look fake, make it look plasticky, as I like to call it, make it look flat. You have to kind of find a balance. What's nice about Photoshop is that you have layers and that you can adjust the opacity. So I'm going to show you real quickly. I'm using a Wacom pen tablet with pressure sensitivity that gives you more control over when you're painting. But normally you would want to really zoom in here and you would want to take your time with the dodge tool. And this is a great method I advise if you're really in a pinch and you've got a lot of images and a client is waiting and you're doing it for a job and you just got to get these images out there. And you don't want to really spend a lot of time and go crazy. So I would definitely try the dodge tool out. Like I said, not as much control, but you do have options. And like I said, you don't want to go the fake route either. I'll show you before and after. Okay, before and after. So you got to be careful with the whole fake thing. But I'm showing you this as an example. Okay? Here's the way that I would do it, that I would take my time and do it. I would Command Control J, and I would make a duplicate of the layer, of the background layer. And you can label it teeth if you want. We're going to do that now. As you know, I like to try to stay organized with my layers here. And of course you don't have to do this, but I find it easier as you're moving along to stay organized with your layers. So we labeled it teeth. So we have the original layer on the background. And then on top we have the new teeth layer, which all our teeth edits are going to go on this. And then we would zoom in. Zoom in a good amount. You can zoom back out if you zoomed in too much. But for this demo, we're going to zoom in as much as we can. And what we're going to do is we are going to make a selection. There's different methods of this, of course, of what methods you want to use to select. So I would say it's a matter of just trying different tools out. Right now we're going to use the quick selection tool. I find that to work the best in this situation. Okay, and you can add and subtract to your selection too. Now I'm not going to go crazy for this demo here, but you would want to come in here and make sure that everything is selected and nothing else. Because you don't want nothing to look funky and the skin and the lips to look funky. But you do want to try to select as much of the teeth as you possibly can for when you do your edits. But like I said, you could go crazy. But I think that's more than enough for this. Let me get some of this bottom tooth here. You know, you could even actually go back here later on with the dodge tool too and touch stuff up if you wanted to. Okay, so here we go. So I think that's good enough for now. Okay. We have a decent selection. We can always edit that later. And then as we have our teeth selected, I'm going to go down here and I'm going to do a Hue Adjustment Level. Of course, this brings up our Hue Saturation Luminance, HSL. What we're going to do is we're going to switch the color from master. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be yellow. It could be any color. It doesn't matter. But we're going to go to yellow. It will work either way the same. And we are going to turn the saturation and we're going to switch it all the way to the left. Now, watch what happens to the teeth. You see that? And we're going to pull back. Like I says, we're going to make more adjustments later, but you don't want to overdo it because you don't want nothing to look fake. And then what I like to do is I like to switch this back to master and maybe pull the lightness to the right. Look at that. Now don't worry if you go too much because we're going to make an adjustment later. Okay? And there we go. Of course, it doesn't look that great. It looks kind of plasticky and fake. We're going to zoom out. And now, lastly, what I would do is I would mess with the opacity. Of course, it's set at 100 by default. So start bringing that down. You want it to look nice and white, but you also don't want it to look fake. So you want it to make it look realistic. And try turning that on and off. Let's zoom in on here so it shows up on YouTube. Okay? Before, after. Before, after. Maybe we're going to punch it up a little bit here for the video so you guys can see what I'm doing. But normally I wouldn't go this high, but I'm going to do it for the purpose of this video. So, before, after. We'll zoom out. Before, after. Zoom in a little bit more. Before, after. Okay? Big difference. But it doesn't look fake. It looks nice and realistic. Of course, you could edit that and go crazy with that. And like I said, you could use the dodge tool to touch up whatever you missed. But I find this way to be the best. It's a little bit longer. Not too big of a deal. You make your selection. Make a new layer, make a selection, do that hue, saturation, luminance level, mess with your opacities, mess with the saturation, mess with the lightness, and you're good to go. I definitely use this on a lot of my images, and I find it to be the best method and the most control that I have to change and edit things. You know, and of course that opacity slider really helps too. So take care, everybody. Try that out and let me know what you think of that tip. And I will talk to you again soon on the next episode. Take care, everyone.